houses an air of side-by-side cottages in a fairy tale, the sort where Goldilocks would show up to test the beds, only to find herself in a heap of trouble when the bears came home. My desire to rent had nothing to do with money, since Holliss was what you'd call a cheap bastard. Said with love, sort of. Prior to his death, you could catch me regularly ribbing him about his Loch Ness monster of a wallet, as in, "Sweet Jesus, look what just surfaced from the abyss. Let me snap a picture before the thing vanishes again." After his death, I regretted those jokes. Sort of. Thanks to his miserly ways, I never have to worry about paying the bills. No small relief, since I found myself with far more troubling issues to keep me up at night. And so, this tenant. He was not the first to respond to the ad. Before him, a brooding young woman came to see the place, wrists jangling with what I concluded were too many bracelets, skin wafting with what anyone would conclude was too much patchouli. In the dragging voice so many kids speak with these days, she asked if I minded cats. I don't. In fact, I like most animals a great deal and have a compulsion for nurturing strays that wander out of the woods behind the cottages. What I minded was her. Perhaps unfairly, I took Miss Bangle Bracelets to be someone who wore too much eyeliner and vaped too many e-cigs while the candle she burned drooled all over the countertops. She might have turned out to be clean, courteous, and punctual with rent check. But she was not what I needed in a tenant. And what I needed was such a nuanced thing. I could not exactly list it in my ad. For that reason, also a great big no to the Manhattan attorney who wandered the small rooms and banged on walls the way people kick tires on a car they might buy, while I stood in the doorway. His phone buzzed with the determined frequency of a mosquito on the make, and when he wasn't interrupting himself to check it, the man was enlightening me in oddly urgent tones about his scheme to go off the grid, which led to this Mensa-level inquiry. Do the birds always chirp so loudly? Because the last thing I need in my life is more noise. No to the couple who smelled like Starbucks and gave the toilet not one, but 3 test flushes. All the while I stood by the door fielding questions, which included yet another high IQ hit. Does that depressing drive-in still show movies? Because that would be, like, majorly inconvenient. There were others, but given my situation, looking for a tenant was not unlike what people often say about looking for love. It had to feel right. At the start of my troubles, Dr. Leopold paraphrased a different quote for me. The words became taffy in my brain, which is to say, I pulled at them every which way. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do children as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Thank you, Miss Helen Keller. Perhaps you've figured out by now that I can't tell you with any great certainty what those rejected tenants looked like. I can only report how they sounded. Dragging, urgent. The way they smelled. Patchouli, coffee conglomerate. The particulars of their movements, jangling, not to mention certain touches manufactured courtesy of a hunch, eyeshadow, drooling candles. Which brings me to a point about that business on TV and in movies where a blind person runs her fingers over someone's face to form a vivid mental picture. For the record, we don't do that. I hope, by way of example, to have already laid out some marginally better sense of how it works for a person like me. As for the